Good afternoon, Dean Washburn, Assistant Vice President of Academic Affairs at DeBurley, and also President John Cook. I wanted to bring you together for a few minutes this afternoon to talk to you about student progression through Algebra 2 here at Springfield Technical Community College. As you know, enrollment and retention numbers between fall of 2009 and 2017 has declined by 28% at Springfield Technical Community College. These numbers are very alarming, and as you know, very difficult decisions have had to be made due to the reduced budget that we have because of this loss of enrollment. And one thing that is also something that we want to look at is the retention rate for the first time full-time degree-seeking students has remained consistent between 58 and 60% over the same time period. So we're hanging on to the new students, however, total enrollment is declining. The 5-day math courses are something that are only offered for developmental math classes. We also have it for calculus classes as well. Students meet 5 days per week for the equivalent of 6 credit hours. Students are only paying for 4 credit hours, which means that the school is incurring a loss because of those additional credit hours that faculty are being paid to teach. However, students are not paying to take those credit hours. One of the things that is included in those 5-day math courses, in addition to extra instruction, is project-based learning. Project-based learning is where we provide students with actual examples of the real world in order to help them understand the why. That's the question that we always hear: when do we ever use this? Why is this math important? So project-based learning helps that. It also allows students to place up. So that means if a student places high into an Algebra 1 class, they're allowed to take a 5-day Algebra 2 class, which saves them a semester by taking additional work. So this is true for pre-algebra, Algebra 1, because the sequence is pre-algebra, Algebra 1, and then Algebra 2, and then they're allowed to take their college level math classes. So it allows the group of students from pre-algebra placing up into an Algebra 1 class, or Algebra 1 placing up into an Algebra 2 class, which is very helpful for a lot of our students. So Algebra 2 is the last of those 3 developmental courses offered here at STIC. It's required for students hoping to be accepted into the highly competitive medical programs. As you know, many of our students want to get into the nursing program or the radiology program, but very few students are accepted each semester. And Algebra 2 has been found to correlate with student success in those programs. The course consists of 10 quizzes and 3 examinations, and it's broken into 3 modules throughout the semester. Now I want to get into why we're here today. The average scores by assessments as students work through is very interesting. So the 206A is the very first quiz that students take. It progresses into 206B, and then they take that first module test, which we call 791. The second module is broken up into 3 quizzes and also an examination. And then the last module is broken into 4 quizzes, and then the cumulative final examination. The interesting part here is the overall, so this lighter green line is the 3-day class, which is the traditional class. The 5-day line is the students in our 5-day class, and the line in the middle is the average between those two. So as you can see, students in the 5-day class tend to perform better on that first quiz, just by a couple points though. All of the students decline when they go into that second quiz. But then when they get into that first examination, it tends to really spike up and they do really well. Another huge piece here that I think is interesting is 207B. So it's the middle of that second module, and this material is very difficult for a lot of students. The 5-day students perform almost 10 points better than our 3-day students. And this is something that I find extremely interesting. But then by the time they get to that last quiz, they're all right at that same place. And then even more interesting, when they get to 209A, once they're halfway through that third module, the 3-day students again perform a lot lower than the students that are in the 5-day class. And this is actually a full, almost 15, almost 20% points difference. The very interesting point is also here. When we get to the very end, the students on the very last quiz and the cumulative final examination perform exactly the same. So what this tells me is that those 5-day classes, assuming that we're placing students appropriately, we should really continue them because we're giving chance for students to skip an entire semester worth of developmental math, which we know is going to help us retain those students longer. It's also helping students that are considered at risk to complete the class at the same place as their peers. When we talk about students' performance by module, as we're looking between 3 and 5-day classes, this continues to show that students getting that C really struggle in that middle module. Students who fail never even complete, they don't even register for that second module, but then they do attempt the final examination. 5-day classes are a little bit different. They tend to persevere through and do almost the same if they're getting that C or that B or even that A. However, the students who failed the 5-day class never even took the final examination, but they did not do well at all on that middle. However, that middle module, they're just slightly below an average for students who ended up with a C overall. So this is interesting data to me that we have that middle 792, that second module is really important in getting our students to really pass this class. And then by class type, this is just module 2. So where within that module 2 do we see students really struggling? A 3-day class, an A or a B, it's really pretty consistent between them. Our 5-day class, we also have pretty much consistency with those grades overall between A, B's, and C's throughout that second module. However, students that get a C from the 3-day class, they have a very definite negative slope between that first quiz and then that examination. The students who fail the class tend to do well on that first quiz. They don't do well on the second quiz. They do well, but then they completely give up. And the same thing happens to the students who fail here, except they do well in the first 2 quizzes. It's that third quiz. So it's interesting to me that it's the third quiz for the 5-day class, but it's the second quiz for those for the 3-day class. So some of my recommendations based on this data. I think we should keep offering those 5-day courses. I know it's been on the table for us to cut them because of the cost to the college, and we're really looking for every way possible in order to cut expenses at this time. However, this is showing us, the data showed us here, that those 5-day classes are really important for students. They end at the same exact place as our 3-day peers. However, most of them didn't place there. A lot of them are placing up, and they should have been placed in the course before them. However, with that additional instruction and those project-based learning projects, it's allowing these students to succeed at the same place where their peers are. I also feel that we should require tutoring for students that don't perform well within that second module. That's where we really need to catch the students that may fail or be on that borderline C, because students do need a C- or above to move on to a college level class. We also should proactively advise our students during the course that the material in the middle of the course is extremely difficult, and they're going to have to study extra hours. They're also going to have to find tutoring if they need it. I want to thank you for your time today, and I want to open this up now if you have any questions. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.